Hi, I am A. Remember.
From Prom Heart, One Certain Day.
By J. E. Fear.
He moved his stool closer to me, effectively crossing the border between his side of the cemetery and mine. I just noticed this, that his family occupied the lot next to Lola's. I was peering at their festivities, a battery-operated radio booming out stale pop songs, the cluster of uncles playing cards in front of the coffin box, and children playing with the dripping wax, when Son nudged my side with his pointy elbow.
So, who died here?
He asked plainly. My Lola Leoncia, I answered, conceding that I was really stuck with him today since we were cemetery neighbors. She died last February. This is her first All Saints Day. He gave my arm a sympathetic pat. I did not flinch.
How are you doing?
Okay. My gaze found the ground. I wasn't too sad anymore about Lola dying. I mean, it had been months, and as my mom promised, time was very helpful. But in a strange way, the question of how are you always made me feel down. Like it was reminding me to feel sad in case I'd forgotten. You know, most days I didn't like her. She nagged louder than my mother, but she was still my Lola. Son nodded, as if he understood. Maybe he did, since he was here mourning his own death.
I'm sure my mother attended to her wake.
He turned his gaze to a woman, long and thin like him, on his side of the cemetery.
Usually, she brings caldereta to, wakes and stuff.
Anik Marie! Son's mother gave me a short wave, as if she heard me. I waved back, smiling. She did! That was really good caldereta.
I'm glad you liked it.
Son grinned from his mother to me, flashing straight white teeth.
Who's Melly?
My mother had finished wiping Lola's nameplate, and we could now read her name, the dates of her birth and death, and Smelly's name, and the dates below them. Lola's cat, was my reply. I named her.
How did she die?
Run over by a car. The look of horror marred Son's face.
Oh, what? No. I meant your Lola.
Cardiac arrest.
Right.
We watched Cecilia place a small plastic mouse under Smelly's name. I like that cat, I said to Son, hearing my voice break.
I'm sorry.
His voice mirrored my solemn tone. How about you? Who's your dead?
Tito Alan.
It was like we were watching a play. Now, the lights had dimmed on stage left, and we were in full blast on stage right, where the Castillos were gathered around their families' tombs. We watched them as Son continued.
My dad's youngest brother died this year too.
I'm sorry.
He'd been living in the States for years. Came back here as a body. I didn't know him very well.
I'm sorry, I said again, meaning the words differently this time. Son seemed to have heard it in my voice, the new weight of a few syllables when I said them. He smiled.
Thank you.
He ran his fingers through his hair, leaving the curls standing, wiry strands pointing to the sky. Why had they been sticking out like that? I wondered.
Why are you sitting here alone?
He prodded. I'm not alone, I blurted out, tearing my gaze away from his unruly hair.
Well, yeah. You're with me now.
He wrapped an arm around my shoulder and squeezed, as if to emphasize that I was, in fact, with him. I panicked a little. He let me go before he went on.
But before that, when you were sulking in your seat?
I wasn't sulking, I was watching, I retorted, swallowing an itch in my throat. This doesn't happen very often. Everyone here together. The lights were back on at stage left. All my cousins had climbed a flat surface in the concrete slab tombs, starting a game of cards now that the last bag of chippy had been decimated. Their mothers sat on plastic stools, murmuring Hail Marys while guarding the flowers and the candles.
I didn't know you had this many cousins.
Son said, scanning the faces of my relatives with an open gaze.
They don't visit a lot, do they?
Oh, no. They all grew up in the city. Well, different cities. I looked at each face I knew, my brain offering bits and pieces of facts I recently gathered. Tita Lydia lives in Marikina, working in the same insurance company as her husband, Jose and Juan. Over there, they're hers. And there's Tita Jo, her husband still works in Saudi. She and her only son Carlo over there are both on a diet, but only Carlo seems to be working. But we're not allowed to tell the Joe that, though. It makes her cry a little. Son was counting off on his fingers, and was trying to keep up with my story.
You seem to know them very well.
Oh, now I do. Well, kind of. I agree. Surprised. Like, it felt like the truth. I've seen more of them after my Lola died. Birthdays and stuff. Then we watched that new superhero movie when I came to visit. Just before you arrived, they were talking about spending Christmas together here in Lola and Lola's house. I don't remember the last time we did that. I took a moment, catching the Joe hit Carlo with her fan when he started munching on a chocolate bar. Beta and Del chortling at the Neverman. It's weird, isn't it? How someone's death can bring people together.
It's because of the black space.
Son burst out. I shot him an empty gaze. The what?
Black space.
He repeated patiently.
When someone dies, they leave a black space, a spot. A vacancy, if you will. The ones that remain hurry to fill it.
I started nodding. Interesting way to put it.
My dad says it also applies to other things, like when friends leave you, or when someone breaks your heart.
Son looked pretty proud of the pearls of wisdom he was scattering about.
You're lucky. It can go in the opposite direction, you know? The black space dissolving into nothingness.
He turned his attention back to his side of the stage. We caught sight of his mother muttering something to his dad, their dark looks directed at Son's uncles.
I'm still waiting to see what happens on our side of the cemetery. But I heard talk about Tito Scondo in Makati and Alapit Balanga. We might be moving closer to nothingness.
Maybe if you stay on that side, you'll have a better idea, I suggested.
Nah, I like it here with you.
He put a hand on my shoulder again. I jumped in my seat, having the awareness to panic this time, but Son didn't seem to notice or care. He was too busy pulling me towards him, his steady gaze holding mine. He stopped short of our noses touching, the perfect distance for me to read the words that formed next on his lips.
Do you realize this is the first time we've spoken since elementary graduation?
He could have been revealing a bigger secret than blank space the way he said it. His mouth was opening into another wide smile, and it alarmed me how I was so close to him, I could see how it lit up his eyes like lamps. We aren't exactly best friends, I babbled out, trying to wrench myself away from the scope of his abrupt light and failing.
Yeah, but remember that day. I came up to you and congratulated you for your
A special award for participation in the arts, I supplied, my memory sparking in my head. Son let me go, but not before a lock of his hair tickled my chin. He started clapping, and I responded with an eye roll in hopes he would hear my wildly thumping heart. I got recognition for a supporting role in our school's adaptation of Ibong Adarna, and I played a servant girl, and I had one line. I'm pretty sure that's not even a real award.
Of course it's real.
Son retorted when I voiced out my doubts.
Girls in the arts are the coolest.
You like art now?
If you must know, I am an artist myself.
He huffed, planting his hands on his hips.
I'm in a band.
Oh, sure you are.
I am! I'll bring you a recording next time.
I felt something warm, prickling under my skin at his words, at his subtle promise. I was smiling when I said, okay, forgetting to sound haughty about his claim that he was an artist. He chuckled, seemingly satisfied that he'd convinced me.
This isn't so bad.
What?
I was dreading this holiday. Cemeteries creep me out.
He spread his arms wide at the scene surrounding us. Gray smoke from burning wicks floated from the candles, a solemn hymn of prayers joining them in the air. A small procession of priests had passed our block, leaving behind the heady scent of burning incense. I thought of it all as somber, but I understood where creepy could factor in.
And my cousins and brothers are at the boring age.
Son gestured with his thumb to his family, not minding his loud voice.
They're all in their 20s, busy trying to, adult. But now you're here, I can talk to you. And I'm glad.
I should have been weirded out. I should have run to my mother, or at least to Cecilia, defenses kicking in because there was a strange boy who was coming on very strong. But I didn't. I think it was because Son was looking right at me, and the honesty in his eyes felt very certain, much like the heat that sparked under my skin with his every nudge, as every slight touch. It was hard to think straight. The cemetery vigil lasted for more hours. So did our talk about things like high school PE, favorite anime series of all time, and funny aunts and uncles, broken only when Mama called me to lead the novena for the dead. When the sun went down, the adults decided the children could go home and fetch the men, so I said goodbye to Son, dragging my feet with each step. The morning after that, All Souls Day, Son was still in town. He was sitting outside Aling Nene's store with a handful of his friends, laughing over some joke. And I was inside our house, sitting by the window, in perfect view of the scene. That was the day I started wondering how it would feel to touch his hair. From Prom the Heart, One Certain Day.
By J.E. Trio.